Hi friends, happy Monday. I hope your week is off to a great start. You will notice there are a few things different about today's video than past videos, and I will go ahead and jump in and explain why. As I was reading the chapters for this week, the two principles, which, by the way, week 6 of 7, we are super close. We are talking about going in the right order and essentializing. Not in that order. Essentializing is first, and then going in the right order is the next one. The heart of both of those chapters is the same. And not only is it the heart of both of those chapters, but I realized it's truly the heart of this book for me. This principle, this concept, is the main thing that I took away from this book and the main thing that I hoped to tell other people about, the thing that gets me so fired up and excited to share this book, and one of the main reasons that I wanted to do this book club. And that concept is naming what matters. Name what matters for essentializing and for going in the right order. Name what matters is first and most important. So as I was thinking about these videos, we had kind of a lull last week in the group, and on my part too, not just the participants. Like, I was kind of spacey and forgot to put up our recap thread on Saturday. I didn't do a very detailed breakdown of questions for our challenge on Wednesday. I just kind of put the principles from the chapters, like, how are you doing this and this? So, I felt it too. And I kind of realized as the leader of the group, I just need to keep my finger on the pulse of like, well, how are people doing and what do people need? And I realized the lives, at one point, I think the lives were really helpful because we had more people who were able to actually tune in live and kind of have a back and forth, have a discussion. And it also felt more candid. I felt like I was able to share easier on an actual live talking to people than on a pre-recorded video. Because in the past book clubs, I had done pre-recorded videos and they always took me a long time, and I would start them over a lot and felt kind of stiff, and lives worked okay for a while. But the season I'm in right now, I hop on at 8 o'clock after like doing bath time with my daughter and kind of like halfway reviewing the chapters, but not feeling super prepared. And so I think the content of what I'm saying suffers because of that, and you guys just don't get as much value. So reading these two chapters and revisiting that idea of naming what matters, it just kind of dawned on me what matters about this book club and what matters about these videos is just that they're helpful for you in some way. What matters to me is not that we have a ton of members and everybody watches everything and comments on everything, and that's not what matters. But what matters to me is that when I'm putting up something in the group for you, that I'm taking the time and intentionality to think through, like, well, what are the most important pieces of this chapter? How can this be helpful for someone who's doing the book club, even if they don't have time to read, if they didn't read this week? I thought of several ways that I could make these more helpful. First of all, is making them shorter and more to the point. So this one's going to be a lot shorter. Apologies if I talk really fast. I'm trying to keep it short and to the point. And also just pre-recording right now is a way that I can offer better value, because it's going to be at a time when I'm like more together and more focused, and I can devote more just mental energy to it, because I just want to be helpful. That's the whole point of this, and just to connect and to remind you that there's a person out there on the internet, in the real world somewhere, who cares about you and is really glad that you're here and wants to see you succeed and grow in the ways that matter to you. That's the whole point of this book club. So, with that little preamble, I will very quickly touch on last week's chapters, which again, we didn't have a whole lot of conversation about those. And I think the reasons were A, for me not necessarily facilitating conversation very well, but B, also just because, particularly for me, I don't know if y'all felt this too, the chapter about letting people in just feels really hard right now because we're in the pandemic, because we're in a time when most people are not conducting in-person relationships in the same way that they normally would. So a whole chapter about hospitality, letting people into your life and your home with ideas about how to do that, just fell kind of flat for me. And I struggled to connect it to what my life looks like right now. I know that there's still value in what she shared about being authentic and letting people in on an emotional level, but that's just kind of hard. That's already hard to do, and it's compounded right now by the circumstances that we find ourselves in. So, and then batching is practical. It's a good tip. It's nothing like groundbreaking, I don't think. I think what could be groundbreaking is if you take batching and you apply it to something that it never occurred to you that you could batch before. It's good stuff. So if you didn't read it, flip through the batching chapter, see if you get any ideas for how you can make things more efficient. And of course, if you read and you have thoughts, you're always welcome to go back on old threads as you catch up on reading and comment. It's not like they expire or anything. So let's dive into this week, which I'm just so excited about, naming what matters, because again, that is the heart of this book for me. So she talks about essentializing in whatever number we're on. Refer to your schedule below in the thing if you need it in the group. And she mentions Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism, which is also one of my favorite books. I've read it twice, kind of want to read it again. If this chapter resonates with you, or if just the idea of essentializing, of eliminating stuff that doesn't matter, resonates with you, I highly, highly recommend that you read or listen to his book. He does have a podcast. I haven't gotten that much into his podcast. I think the book is a better place to start, just to get a grasp on the concept. But it truly means like you need to figure out what matters. And once you know that, you can go about getting rid of what doesn't. She applies it to her closet, what matters to her about the kinds of clothes she owns and what it's like for her to get dressed. She applies it to, let me flip through, what are some other things? She applies it to cleaning the bathroom, which is such a Kendra thing, because she takes these concepts that can seem abstract and applies them to like the most basic concrete things like cleaning the bathroom. I love her. She's also really funny how she describes how much she hates cleaning the bathroom. But anyway, so just as a personal example for me, when I was essentializing how I do the book club and how I do the videos, I had to just get down to, I think I'm kind of repeating what matters, but it's just that these are easy to watch and they're easy to follow and they're helpful nuggets of information for people who maybe don't have time to read, or if you are reading, it should enrich the experience. So I hope that you get a lot out of essentializing if you are able to read the chapter. And then go in the right order. Again, it starts with naming what matters. For any task that you want to complete, she talks about how the first thing you need to do is figure out what's important here, what matters about this task. And once you know that, step 2 is to calm the crazy, I think is how she puts it. And step 3 is to trust yourself, which can be hard sometimes. But she just talks a lot about how we need to kind of trust our intuition, that we know what we need in a given situation, and it's okay to get input from other people, but what matters at the end of the day is what you need something to be, not what a lot of other outside voices tell you it should look like. So, yeah, that's the chapters for this week. And I don't want to talk too much longer because I'm going to make the video too long. But I'm really glad each one of you are here. Whoever takes the time to watch. I don't care if you've read every chapter so far. I don't care if you meant to read and you never started and you're like just not going to read at this point because it's overwhelming. This is a great book. I think it will help you in a lot of practical ways. But the main point of this whole book club is just connection, to remind you that I'm rooting for you. I'm glad you're here, and I hope that you get some little helpful snippets out of these. If you, whether you read or not, I hope that just these little nuggets about essentializing and whatever else we've talked about with these principles are helpful. So I will end the video here, and I'll also put up a fun announcement soon I decided a little prize that I will randomly select somebody at the end of next week for those who participate in our challenge threads. So stay tuned for that. Bye, guys.